Why is Rocket League content dying? Why is Rocket League content dying? It's a pretty hot topic right now. Lots of the biggest content creators in Rocket League seem to agree. Impressions are down, views are down, engagement is down. I mean, it really just seems like Rocket League content has been falling for a long time now. The most popular rhetoric, or I guess the consensus, seems to be that it's mostly Psyonix's fault, or maybe Epic Games' fault. I think there's some truth to that, but it is definitely more complicated than that alone. There's a lot of moving parts to what sustains a community's content. So I mean, let's just get into this. First and most obviously, Psyonix. It's easy to see that the decisions and actions or lack of actions that Psyonix has taken has had a pretty big impact on Rocket League content. I mean, like, all the way from the beginning, probably the single biggest stain on the credibility of Psyonix is their severe lack of communication. And that's just, it's been that way for years. Content creators, players, pro players, everyone has been asking for better communication for the better part of a decade. They don't test things, they don't communicate when updates are coming out, they don't do a great job of building hype most of the time. There's no communication about ongoing developments, most obviously the engine upgrade everyone's looking out for. No communication about why the quality of content updates has dropped and why the frequency of them has dropped significantly. It's just, it has effectively left all of us in the dark for years because they just don't say anything. Like, regardless of the size of the community pushback or the response to any kind of update they put out, they just don't say anything. And on the rare occasions that they do, it's normally just not that interesting, or it's just them saying that they will communicate better in the future, which of course never happens. You have the lack of meaningful updates. I mean, it's November 2023. They've just announced a quality of life update, you know, as some like big thing that obviously everyone's praising because it's, you know, the first non-cash grab DLC update we've gotten in a year. It just seems like the quality of their releases, the quality of the items in the shop, everything is just flatlined, or maybe even gotten worse, and that's just been a steady decline. I mean, the Rocket Passes used to be pretty interesting and unique and seemed like they had a lot of work put into them, but we've seen countless reskins of maps, you know, that like you could pay somebody on Fiverr to do this in an hour. You have an endless wave of low quality, low effort cash grabs going into the item shop, and it's just like the content they put out for the game is just feels kind of meaningless. It doesn't feel like a real. They never feel like passion projects. They never feel like, you know, something that should be hyped up. They never feel like that interesting. It's just like, oh, hey, you can now purchase the Ford truck. Then of course you have like the removing features thing is obviously very hot right now. Like the trade shop, the whole trading economy is just going to be gone in a few weeks, which just eliminates a huge part of the community. And I wanted to point out that this is not the first time they've done something like this. Some of you might remember, well before free-to-play, back when we were all huffing major copium, hoping that the Epic Games acquisition wasn't going to ruin the game, they straight up just eliminated the entire Mac and Linux community. Some people might not even know those platforms used to be supported, but like there were a very significant amount of players on those platforms, and they just stopped supporting them. And the idea that was pushed at the time was like, supposedly it's a small enough percentage base that it's not worth putting investment into, and they can spend more time making quality updates for everyone else. Here we are a few years later. We killed off the entire macOS and Linux community, and in return, we get a menu that's moved around after a year of waiting. Or in return, we get our 10th reskin of a map, some wacky eyeball wheel, and a goal explosion that changes the colors on your screen. It's just disingenuous, and the removal of features seems to be kind of a theme. And there are things, you know, outside of just like disrespect or lack of care that could be causing this. Like, we know that some of Psyonix was laid off due to the Epic layoffs. there are, you know, real world consequences to those things. It's possible their team is shrinking. It's possible that they're focusing most of their efforts on UE5. There's tons of things that are possible, but the whole point here is like we don't know. Like we don't have any feedback. We don't know why these things are happening. Or we don't know if there's a good reason, if there's no reason, if there's something we can look forward to while we wait and kind of like put up with these low quality updates. There's nothing to hold on to. We go through 2 RLCS World Championships where throughout all of both of them, everyone's waiting for the UE5 update, and it's like just not a word is spoken. Like there's no capitalization on the hype. There's no trailer video. There's no 5-second teaser video just to give something for people to talk about. There's just nothing coming from them. And it's to the point where when they announce a menu being switched around and like some small quality of life improvements coming to the menu, that's like a huge thing now that everyone's excited for and happy about, because that's the bar they've set. Like it's been lowered so much that a few small quality of life tweaks and the fact that it was posted, you know, like on Reddit, that's now a really good thing to the community. Like we're happy about that for some reason. Epic Games, I mean, like I could go into Epic Games for hours. I personally disagree with a lot of their habits. I held out for the longest time getting their launcher just because their strategy for acquiring customers was just blatantly obvious. You know, it's the classic thing where like Epic Games has money, so they dumped a ton of money into the platform by giving out free games and acquiring exclusive rights to games. And while competition for Steam is good, I just wish personally that the competition came from interesting development, new ideas, new technologies, actual like tangible benefits to their platform, instead of like, hey, you can only play this game here, so of course you're going to download our platform kind of thing. It just kind of scummy to me, and you know that was all happening before Epic Games acquired Psyonix and Rocket League, so that, you know, that was already something. And of course they essentially did the same thing with Rocket League. Even then, you know, those of us still holding out on Steam, I am very glad we're getting updates. It's one of the few things, you know, few objectively positive things that they've done, but there's just no reason not to still have the game posted on the Steam store. I mean, the support is still there for now. We can still play the game, but we're disallowing people from finding the game here. But anyway, like I said, Epic Games has done plenty of not fun things and had their hand in plenty of nasty little honeypots. But so I think that discussion level is where most people stop. It seems like a lot of the conversation around Rocket League content is like, you know, the game is dying because there's a lack of content updates, lack of interesting technologies and new features. So the game is dying, so the content is dying. And while I agree that's a part of it, I think it's a lot more complicated than that, which is why that's point number 1 of 5 for me. I just think it's a little bit short-sighted to stop there and just not look any further into the issue. There's a lot of moving components to this, but we can get into this next section, which I've labeled the players. So we've gone over the role that Psyonix and Epic Games play in this, which is definitely significant, but there's some other important things to acknowledge. So with players specifically, the first thing is that you have to acknowledge that most Rocket League players are casual players, which sounds backwards and is not what I was expecting when I was doing research for this. And I should have sources for all this stuff in the description if anyone wants to double check or correct any of these numbers. But it looks like Rocket League last month had 83 million active players. So that's like logins, not necessarily unique players as I understand it. But they had 83 million active players in the last 30 days. And only 22.7 million players were ranked in any playlist in the last 30 days. So that's like a quarter of the player base is playing competitive Rocket League. And now I'm pointing this out because, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but you have to acknowledge what kind of people you're making your content for if you want to understand why your engagement is going down. Say for instance, if I'm a YouTuber who's making ranked grinding videos about Rocket League, and I'm upset because each video is only getting 200 views. It's like, okay, well, maybe your video was shown to 10,000 people, and maybe only 2,000 of those people even play competitive in the first place, and then maybe half of those people are a higher rank than you, and then, you know, maybe a third of those people you can just go on and on and on, and it's like you have to understand who you're talking to before you model your speech. Like you don't just start spitting. You do some research. This is a big problem with Rocket League content because a lot of the easier, like, low effort content is just playing ranked. And, you know, maybe you have some kind of twist. Maybe it's like a road to SSL, or maybe it's like I got to Grand Champ with a keyboard, or, you know, these things that are possibly interesting concepts, but to a restricted amount of people. It's not that casual players would never view competitive content, but they're much less likely to. So the first thing with players is, you know, like, most of them are casual. Most of them don't care about your 10th Road to Grand Champ series. Most of them aren't going to watch a rotations tutorial. You know, like, these things just don't, even if they do make sense to them, they're not interesting to them. That's not what they're going to click on their YouTube homepage. It's not what they want. Something that makes this really hard to come to terms with is that it feels like, at least for me in my circles online, it feels like there's a hugely disproportionate number of competitive players talking about the game. So, like, in all of my social circles, it's a 100% competitive. I mean, I genuinely don't know a single person that just plays Rocket League for fun. So it's hard for me to come to terms with these numbers as far as, like, competitive versus casual players, but I have to kind of come to terms with the fact that my experience is just anecdotal. Like, I've just happened to surround myself with people who are playing the game to get better and play it competitively and want to play ranked every time they boot up the game, but that's not indicative of the entire player base. That's one thing that I promised I would include in my content, is, like, appealing to everybody, not just people who are, you know, Grand Champ for the 3rd year in a row, or hitting SSL for the first time, or want to learn a new mechanic. You want to make content that benefits or suits or entertains or educates as many people as possible, you know, and you do kind of limit yourself by engaging solely with the competitive mindset, simply just because the numbers don't match up. Like, there's just not enough people to sustain a huge content industry around that. We're talking a maximum, an absolute maximum upper limit of 20 million people per month, which sounds like a lot, but I mean, how many of those people even have a YouTube account? How many of those people even enjoy watching Rocket League content? How many of those people are even searching for content to make them better at the game? You know, so that's kind of how players affect that side of the industry, as far as, like, less interesting, less creative content goes, which, you know, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's not like making that content is bad or it's worthless. It's just, it's useful to have some self-awareness, especially for the people who are complaining about low view numbers while making these kinds of videos. It's like, you know, it's just kind of funny to see. You're making videos for an audience, and if they're not watching your videos, then those aren't the videos they want. It really is that simple. Like, you have to understand that and adapt and change and make videos that they actually want to see. So yeah, I mean, like, casual players want content that matches their interest in the game. They don't necessarily want to watch Musty's 600th video of queuing doubles with Lethamir, or, you know, the 14th iteration of, like, I tried out for a pro team, etc. You know, when it isn't that content has no place. It's just that when that kind of content is juxtaposed with the complaints about Rocket League content dying, and then those complaints are almost always levied right at Psyonix exclusively, it just helps to have some of that self-awareness. They want content that they are going to be interested in. It's that simple. A really good comparison here, even though I use this all the time, is Video Game Donkey. Like, he, back in his League of Legends days, he made videos that the entire player base wanted to watch. They weren't restricted to diamond players or, you know, grandmaster. Like, he made videos that could appeal to anyone who played League of Legends, which is how he garnered such mass appeal. You know, he just made funny videos that happen to have the game, you know, either as a specific point in the video, you know, like as a focus, or not. Like, maybe the game wasn't even mentioned the whole time and it was just in the background. But either way, it draws in the people, the crowd of people who play that game, and it draws in potentially all of them, you know, within reason, like the ones who speak English and whatnot. But he makes content that necessarily appeals to both crowds, and that level of appeal gives him a far wider reach than somebody like Reddles or apparently Jack on YouTube, who have great content, you know, to me, but there aren't that many me's. There aren't that many people who want to sit there and watch a 20-minute video of 2 1v1 games and, like, you know, study their gameplay and learn from it. There's just almost nobody who wants to do that. It's not a sustainable growth type of content. I think the important thing to consider is just that casual players are not very likely to engage with competitive-based content, but competitive players are more likely to engage with both types of content. If we're boiling it down strictly to which kind of content could reach the most amount of players, it's casual content. It's fun, it's interesting, it's entertaining to both kinds of people. Any kind of person that plays this game could enjoy, you know, that style of video. This is a huge section of this conversation that I think gets left out a lot. The players have to be 99% of the people who are watching Rocket League content. It's not only them, you know, like I watch a Trackmania video here and there, but it's got to be a huge portion of the people who watch content actually play the game. And if that's the case, if you want to reach the most amount of people, you need to make content that reaches the most amount of people. You need to make content that's audience aware, that understands like what people want to watch, and not only understands that, but responds to it and adapts to it and keeps changing as the audience changes. I mean, a huge portion of the people who were playing the game when this came out, like me, were probably teenagers when it came out. The demographic has changed vastly, and so that necessitates a change in the content too. You have to be aware of that and change and adapt with people to stay relevant, you know, if relevancy is something that you're seeking. The next section of this conversation is the content creators themselves, and this part is gonna sound mean. It's gonna sound not very nice, some of the things I say, but understand, when I'm saying these things, I'm putting my viewer hat on. This is not me as a piddly little, you know, 300 subscriber nobody trying to scrutinize and knock down bigger YouTubers. This is me, who now happens to be trying to be a content creator, sharing what I feel as a viewer. So content creators are basically never spoken about in this conversation, because typically they're the ones complaining about it, and it is hard to turn the mirror on yourself. But some notes I put together about what content creators affect on this whole Rocket League content dying business is. And again, please understand, I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm not trying to shit on anyone's videos. This stuff is just how I felt as a viewer, and is part of why I started my own YouTube channel. It's part of why I started making Rocket League videos. It feels like Rocket League content has stagnated from a creative standpoint. Now, this is a part of the conversation that does happen occasionally, where people will say Rocket League content is stagnant, but they always circle back to the lack of content updates, the lack of communication, the lack of new things to do in the game. But I think that's kind of dismissive of just the huge expanse of possibilities there are to make videos about. It feels like Rocket League content kind of got into a groove a few years ago, and especially with free-to-play release, when, you know, you could basically get 100k views just by, you know, posting a picture of your Octane. Times used to be simpler. It used to be a lot easier to entertain a Rocket League player because the game was still new. There were still things to figure out. There were still interesting concepts being discovered, you know, like the first Rocket League Mafia that Sunless Khan released. That was the first time anyone had done that. That was interesting. But as the years go by, we sit on those proven concepts and just keep recreating them, reiterating on them, you know, basically until they just fall to dust. You know, I mean, we're just out here posting the 27th guess the rank video, and it just feels like the Rocket League space is full to the brim of reiterations of old concepts and just relying on tried and true systems, you know, rather than taking risks and making more creative content. This is true even for new Rocket League content creators, you know? Like, I'm not going to call anyone out specifically, but even brand new channels that have popped up in the last month or two that already have thousands of subscribers and hundreds of thousands of views, there's nothing really new coming to the table. You know, they're popping off in the sense that it's a new person, it's a new creator, and that's always exciting. But they're still tried and true concepts. They're still concepts that we just know will perform to a certain degree, and they don't take any creative risks. They don't have any like broad intrigue or appeal. They're not new. It's just, you know, somebody who used to edit for another big creator, and now they're just making the same videos that creator makes. It's, you know, it doesn't add anything new to the pile. It doesn't inspire anybody. It's kind of just there. It's, you know, it's not exciting as a viewer to get excited, see a new channel, and then, you know, it's just a 14th version of a musty channel, you know, or it's like a second C-Bell coming around and they just make the same videos as he does, and it's like he already makes those videos, you know, like make something new. As a viewer, it's just frustrating, and it's why I stopped watching Rocket League content, you know, basically over a year ago. I mean, I just don't consume any of it now because there's never a video that pops across my screen that draws my intrigue. It's not to say that they're super boring or like not worth watching at all. It's just like I scroll through and I see Sunless Khan uploaded a new version of Rocket League Mafia. I see that Musty discovered a new mechanic for the 27th time. I see, you know, that Lethamir made another custom map. It's just all the same all the time, and it's not only not exciting as a viewer, but it's just straight up exhausting. Like, it makes you tired of looking, of even trying. But yeah, I mean, you know, you see content creators complaining a lot about the lack of engagement, about the lack of updates to the game, about the lack of views, and, you know, they're right to a certain degree. Like, impressions are low, but I just think it's easy to kind of get lost in the complaints and end up blaming the wrong people, or, you know, not being self-reflective to any degree and just solely blaming it on the game, like, quote unquote, being dead. One thing that is brought up occasionally in this conversation is the lack of new Rocket League creators, and that, you know, in theory could stagnate content, and I agree with some of that. That's a point a few big creators have made before, that it's hard to you know, always create from the top. You know, maybe being that popular kind of necessitates falling into a rhythm to some degree. I mean, you know, that's possible. I don't know that. And I acknowledge that that's a possibility, that, you know, a lack of new creators could be hampering, you know, creative endeavors for the Rocket League community. But then you look at the majority of new creators that do come up, and it's, you know, there's very rarely something new going on. And I would argue that to some degree, it could be argued that the inspiration could or should come from the top, you know? Maybe if Rocket League content for the biggest creators wasn't so solved, then, you know, smaller creators wouldn't feel like they had to do the same thing. Not saying that they definitely do, but it's a possibility. But in general, you know, there's not a lot of new Rocket League creators because prospects are low for this niche. You know, it's already low for the biggest people on the entire platform, and, you know, it's hard to take that risk and really put your heart and soul into this stuff whenever it already seems so dreary, even for the people who have already made it. You know, that's something I struggle with every single day, scripting and brainstorming and recording. It's always in the back of my mind that it feels like this game is dying, you know, and it feels like content is dry. It feels like people have kind of lost their chase, their excitement for Rocket League content. And, you know, that's something a lot of people won't be able to fight through. It's a little bit easier to fight that battle from your golden perch of 2.5 million subscribers, you know? It feels like they can take that risk. It feels like they can go out on a limb and create something new, you know? It's easy for small creators to feel restricted in how they can grow, you know, especially if somebody's, you know, trying to grow quickly. They might feel pressured into creating the same kind of content because they know that it's going to perform to some, like, reasonable standard, and it's hard to blame them if they feel that way. And on the other hand, it's, you know, it feels hard to judge larger creators who just, you know, want to keep making the paycheck, and they're happy and comfortable with where their content is at. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if you are a large creator, this is going to ruffle some feathers. If you are a large creator who is complaining right now about content not popping off, and you are posting the same kinds of reiterated, chewed up and spit out over and over again series and video ideas, then you are the problem in that situation for you. You know, it's not Psyonix's job to make interesting videos about their game. It's not Epic Games' job to provide you with content. You know, that's the job of the content creator. It's you that people look up to be creative and artistic and show what the game is capable of, and show new ideas and bring new concepts to the table. It's no one's job but yours to make those videos, and that is undeniable. You know, a game can be as dead as a game can be, and there will still be someone who can make a good video out of that game. The number of updates doesn't matter, the number of items doesn't matter, the engine doesn't matter. The only thing that matters for content creators, when it comes down to it, is your creativity and your artistic license and your willingness to take risks and be an interesting creator, to be frank. So the other obvious part of this, you know, the other piece of this puzzle, and the last party that we haven't really addressed yet, is the viewers themselves. Talking about viewers and algorithms and stuff like that when it comes to content can be a cop-out, but I think it's still an important thing to at least touch on when you're considering, you know, how to guide your content, what's happening with the content for the community in general, all that kind of stuff. The viewers are still pretty important to consider. I think the message that viewers are trying to send, viewers like myself who have just stopped watching Rocket League content, the message that they're trying to send is pretty simple. They just want new, fresh ideas. They just want things that capture their intrigue. They want things that are entertaining. They want things they haven't seen 100 times before on 10 different channels with slight variations in basically the same way. They want something that'll make them laugh, something that they want to sit down and watch, that provide them some kind of value. That's all people want. The hard part of the question, what is killing Rocket League content, is the fact that really nothing is. Like, Rocket League content isn't dead like people want to believe it is. There's a difference between your videos performing, you know, not as well, and there's a difference between your engagement going down. There's a difference between that stuff and a community leaving, which is what I would describe as being dead. Those viewers are still there. You know, there are still people who want to consume Rocket League content. There's almost 100 million monthly active players. I mean, there's video games that are way, way smaller than Rocket League that still get consistently higher views. Those people are there. The viewers haven't died. They haven't moved on to another game. They're still playing. They're still searching for the content. It's just not being served to them. Even on a tiny, brand new channel like mine, click-through rate is high. Retention is high. Views can be too. I mean, we're 3 videos in, and this channel has already gotten like over 10,000 views or something crazy ridiculous like that, which, you know, is extremely exciting to me. But it's a small scale, but it just proves like the viewership is there. You have to find out what they want to see and make it. It's not that they don't exist. It's that they're not being given what they want to watch, so they go watch other things, you know? It's the brutal world of content. If you're serving things that people don't like, they're not going to take the plate. They're going to go back to the buffet table and pick something easy, pick something nice, or they'll go pick something new, something exciting, something they haven't seen before, and that's probably going to be a different game because of the state of content in Rocket League. because most content creators, it seems like, are doing this same sort of rinse and repeat strategy with their content. And this is a point that'll blow your mind, and I love bringing this up when I talk to people about Rocket League content. Donkey, who used to be a League of Legends YouTuber and is now just a variety, plays whatever games he wants YouTuber. He has 2 Rocket League videos, and their combined viewership is like something close to 20 million views. Okay? Both of those videos individually are probably higher viewed than any other Rocket League content creator, aside from like some crazy Sunless Khan Outcast video or something, you know, that maybe is not coming to mind right now. Like, those viewers are there. Mr. Beast, of all people, made a few Rocket League videos, and each of his Rocket League videos have like over, I think the lowest one is like 20 million views, and that's per video. You know, he has several others, and like you can make the excuse that like, oh, okay, it's Mr. Beast, of course, but it's not, of course. Like, it's still a Rocket League video. It's still people that are willing and interested to watch Rocket League, you know? It's just applied correctly. It's just that the creator behind the videos made something that people actually want to watch. And viewership like that should be extremely inspiring for Rocket League creators, because that proves that you can reach those numbers. You know, you can reach outside of the Rocket League community and make videos that even more people want to watch, you know? Talk about making videos for casual versus competitive players. We haven't even gotten into the topic of making videos that non-Rocket League players would enjoy, you know? Which is something Mr. Beast did, ironically. It's something that Video Game Donkey did incredibly well. Like, don't get it wrong, those are Rocket League videos. Rocket League is the focus in all of them, and the viewership is insane for those. So it is possible. The viewership is not dead. You know, the community is still there. They just have to be served something incredible, something new, something they want to see. And I mean, this is me putting my viewer hat back on and maybe getting a little bit feisty again, but I just personally think that viewers deserve better. Regardless of how creators feel, or how worried they are about their income, or how like comfortable they feel in their current status, viewers deserve better content. And like that should just be widely agreeable for any game, but I mean, especially a game like Rocket League, where, you know, everyone we love this game. You know, people play this game for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. They want to keep coming back to this game. They want to watch content about this game in their free time. They deserve incredible content. Like, they deserve content creators who will push their ideas to the limit and past, and like keep trying to get better with every single video. They deserve content creators who like take artistic risks, who try to push the boundaries of their community and come up with new stuff that's going to be interesting to them. And maybe that's, you know, selfish. Certainly there's an argument could be made there. And you know, you can argue this any which way. Lots of people feel very differently about this, but in my opinion, content creation should be completely selfless and like community serving. It's not about me. It's not about my cool video and look at me, you know, I want 1 million views. It's about serving incredible content to other humans. It's about making things that will light up people's day, you know, make them feel better, make them excited about the game, show them some new concept. It's an industry that is truly all about your customers, your viewers. Creating a video should just be selfless. Like, you should have your viewers in mind. You should be thinking about them at every step, you know? Are they going to enjoy this? Is this new to them? Is this something they'll be interested in? Have they seen this before? If they have, how can I make it better? How can I improve? What do they want to see next? What are they interested in now? How have they changed? You know, these are questions that viewers deserve for content creators to be asking, you know, instead of going to Twitter to complain about how their latest video only got 600k views instead of 1 million. So, I mean, this is kind of my conclusion. Those, to me, are the parties who most substantially impact the state of Rocket League content. And you have to, if you want to get to the bottom of this, you have to reasonably understand and appreciate every different aspect and how it affects your content and how it affects the reception to your content. Because if you don't have these things in mind, if you're not considering all of these aspects, then you're just shouting into a void at that point. You aren't even taking your own question seriously if you're asking why Rocket League content is dying, but you haven't considered these things, you know? Because these are all important aspects. These are all things that go into, you know, the uphills and the downhills. Every person, every viewer, every content creator, every gameplay update, like all of these things go into the rise and the decline of content creation, and you have to be aware of each of them and what they're doing and how they're changing, and you have to adapt to those things and then use that knowledge, that understanding to make content that appeals to those people and those changes, and you know, make sure that you're keeping things fresh and making things that people actually want to watch. In reality, I think the stagnation of Rocket League content is basically everyone's fault. You know, I don't think it's solely on Epic. I don't think it's solely on Psyonix or content creators or viewers alone. I think it's just the mindset and the state of the community all around. I think it's just as much the lack of content updates as it is the lack of widespread understanding and awareness of content creators. I think it's just as much casual players' unwillingness to watch competitive content as it is like a new YouTuber's willingness to branch out and try something new. You know, every party has its share in the state of Rocket League content. And I think understanding all of that together gets you a little bit closer to the answer and to a solution to the question. The only way to revitalize a quote-unquote like content wasteland like people think Rocket League is in right now is for the community as a whole to improve all of these aspects. It's not even like if Sunless Khan comes out with some absolute cracking banger tomorrow that's never been seen before and like does some crazy new thing that like nobody was expecting. That alone wouldn't fix it. Like, sure, you know, Sunless Khan's going to be happy because it'll probably pop off, but it's not going to fix the actual issue. You know, it's just a band-aid like all of these other things. It takes people from every part of this issue understanding and working together to improve it. And, you know, if you are just a viewer of Rocket League content and, you know, maybe you haven't seen too much discussion on this topic, I think the single biggest thing that just like average YouTube viewers, average like Twitter followers, whatever, the single best thing that people in general can do is consume Rocket League content and then give serious, honest feedback. Give actionable feedback, you know, if it's within your ability to do so, that creators can like actually improve from. It can be super easy to kind of get inside of your tunnel, your echo chamber of like, yes, this video is great, and you know, wow, I'm very excited to see who is the fake platinum version 3764. It's important to be honest with content creators and tell them that like this just isn't what's interesting to watch anymore. It's okay to tell people that you want them to push themselves. It's okay to tell people that it's time to move on and find new things and become more interesting and explorative and creative. Everyone at any level of success needs that feedback, and I think that kind of feedback is integral to improving the understanding of this issue. There's nothing that says that Rocket League content shouldn't be popping off like crazy. It's a huge game comparatively. It has a ton of players that are extremely passionate, and I'm sure would love to be watching great content. We just kind of have to pull together and make that happen as a community. This video is kind of also a way for me to give you insight into my creative process and what I'm trying to do with this channel. I set out to make YouTube videos for the people who feel like me, and I definitely haven't achieved that yet, and I'm not saying my videos are great or even good, but they will get there, because my whole goal is just to improve with every single video. I'm going to keep brainstorming every single day, and I am never going to upload something that someone else has done, you know, without changing it substantially, some way that I feel like is truly revolutionary to the idea or the concept. And my goal is just to make great Rocket League videos that the most amount of people can enjoy. I don't want my content to be restricted to any kind of specific party. I just want to make great videos that all of you guys will like and laugh at and enjoy watching. So, you know, that's the goal. I'm really excited to be making these videos. It's super fun. And I have so many planned, more than I can even make, you know, in a year. And I'm going to take my time with them. I'm going to try to make them to the best of my ability. And, you know, part of that feedback loop is getting feedback from you guys, you know, so feel free to be open in comment sections, you know, if you feel like a video of mine sucked, tell me why, you know, like I'll take it in, I'll consider it. We'll make it better the next time. You know, that's what we're here for. So yeah, I just wanted a few of you who have been here since the beginning. I want you to know, like, this is crazy. It's super exciting. And there's a lot more coming. And I'm really excited to be doing this stuff for and with you guys. If you want to do something truly special, then take the time while you can to subscribe before we hit 1,000 subscribers. And that is a milestone that no one will ever be able to take away from you, you know? You will have been here from the absolute dredges, from the canyon, from the very beginning. And, you know, I appreciate every single one of you guys. And I can't wait to keep making more videos for you.